Welcome back. Both contenders for the White House, the current president and his predecessor, visiting the Texas border this week almost simultaneously. Must be an election coming up.
This is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion over the past 3 years.
It's time to act. It's long past time to act. They desperately need more resources, need more agents, more officers, more judges.
I've got to say that's pretty rich, Mr. President, given the 8 or 9 million people who've already crossed without permission. Panel, this was Joe Biden's second trip to Texas border as president, and he called on Congress to resurrect that failed Senate deal, which offered additional enforcement resources, but barely any policy change. Holly, you've spoken on that issue before. I mean, is there anything that can be done by Congress prior to November 5th?
Well, there is, but it's not the bill that everybody is touting that supposedly Republicans wrecked. That is what we call a faux border solution bill. You said there's little policy change in it, but some of the policy changes would have exacerbated the problem. It limited or allowed the president to declare closing the border after 5,000 a day entered the country. But then, even then, the president's action would have been temporary. He had the power to lift that in no time. You know, something has to be done, and I don't think there's a will in Congress. I think the American people, for the most part, are insulted by what was advertised as a border bill and really wasn't. They see the crimes, and yes, some of these cases are anecdotal, but the young woman murdered in Georgia by an illegal immigrant who had already had interactions with law enforcement being here is going to be a catalyst, and that's why the American people are so worried about it. Now, that story made national news, but we've had plenty of stories locally here. One of the roadway shooters recently arrested who murdered a woman in Houston traffic was twice deported. We have a serious problem with these people coming through. It hurts people who want to come here for legitimate reasons as well as those already here.
All right, Sue, our Sunday survey, probably to no one's surprise, 93% of those who've dialed in say this is going to be the #1 issue. And this is not a winning issue for Joe Biden. Your thoughts?
That's why there'll be no resolution, because it's the #1 issue that both sides can use, and nobody's going to come to agreement on this because it is the #1 issue. But let me just say, we just in Livingston, Texas, had a little girl who came in contact with somebody with multiple felonies, and she ended up dead. So I think we have issues here that are related here that people need to take care of. I know the immigration issue is serious. I know we want to do something about it, but I also think we have serious issues here. We have little girls being killed by coming in contact with bad people here, and I'd like to take care of that.
Bill King, 30 seconds to point out the obvious that neither side appears really to want to get this solved before November 5th. Anyway.
So look, the cartels have outsmarted us. They figured out how to use the asylum laws to make a claim for these people to stay here. We don't have nearly the judges or the resources or detention areas to hold all these people. So Biden's been letting them in the country. Trump had the advantage that he was president during the pandemic, which gave him certain special powers which don't exist now that we don't have a pandemic anymore. Look, Trump had 4 years to amend the immigration laws. He hadn't done it. Biden's had 3 years to do it. He hadn't done it. Neither side wants to solve this problem because they want to demagogue the issue to try to get your vote.
Marcus, we talked last week about 40% of Texas Democrats in recent polling saying they now favor border barriers, including a wall. That's where we're at now.
This would have been more productive, this grandstanding that took place. It would have been more productive. This happened in Texas, right? So it would have been more productive if the two of them had agreed to a draw. If Biden and Trump had just gone back to back, took 10 spaces, and both consumed an enormous amount of fentanyl, and we'd have a different story today.
So Marcus doesn't like the choice.
Okay, final word to Gary.
Look, there are things that Biden can do, and I anticipate he will announce. He ought to apologize to the American people. They tried, they wanted to be humanitarians, and it didn't work. We've been taken advantage of. So we're going to change our policy. We're going to institute these by executive order. And he has to hope it'll make the border better before the election. If not, the border issue is going to sink him and the Democrats. There is another proposal to deal with immigration. The House passed a bill, which Chuck Schumer, Democratic leader, never brought up in the Senate. So attacking the House Republicans, and they're not doing a good job. Yeah, the Senate's not doing a good job either. They're not getting anything done in Washington. We have open borders, and our enemies are using it to import military-age Chinese who somehow come in and look clean and don't have any issues. It may be we've now put a fifth column in the United States if there's a war with Taiwan, that we have Chinese military in our country. That's scary. It's
scary.
Unbelievable.